towards the end. G'day guys, how you going there?
Good, thanks.
Good. We'll be getting started soon. I might just give another couple of minutes to allow some latecomers to join, and then we'll dive straight in. But thanks for joining. We won't be too much longer. All right, guys, we might kick off now. Thank you for joining. You've joined the BenQ Ifp RP series overview, hosted in conjunction with Toshiba, and I welcome all their partners to this session today. For those who haven't met me before, my name is Jai, and I'm the FAE and trainer for BenQ Australia. So my role involves going around to our partners and their customers and helping them get the most out of our product range. Today, we'll be looking specifically at our interactive flat panels, or our IFPs, and specifically at the RP series. Let's have a quick look at the agenda here. And first and foremost, we'll go over a quick overview of the hardware, so what components make up our panels. We'll be touching on the classroom care or the healthcare side of things, which is really important to BenQ, and it's one of our core focuses there. And then we'll jump into some of our software solutions as well. Predominantly our whiteboarding, our digital whiteboarding solution, known as EasyWrite 5.0. And there's a couple of really great collaborative tools in there, such as TeamPost and Cloud Whiteboard. So we'll be diving into those and how you can get the most use out of those in the classroom. And then we'll be looking at our floating toolbar, which allows us to annotate on top of different sources and outside of that whiteboarding program. And then finally, we'll take a look at Insta Share, which is our wireless casting protocol and program there, which is really easy to use as well. So let's dive into the RP series IFP. It's available in 3 different sizes: 65-inch, 75-inch, and 86-inch. And we have a whole bunch of different classroom care associated with that as well, which I'll touch on in a moment. But diving more specifically into the hardware, we have a 7H tempered glass panel, which is a 4K panel as well. So it's a really robust design. 7H tempered glass is actually used in a lot of mobile phone manufacturing and things like that. And we need that kind of robustness and sturdiness within that classroom with kids, as you know. We also have built-in microphone array as well, and we're actually able to record our sessions on the panel natively. And that's where that microphone array really comes into play there as well. Moving further down the panel, we have a built-in soundbar, and this has 2 16-watt speakers built into it. And so this gives you really great audio quality straight out of the box. So there's no need to hook up any extra peripherals or external speakers there for your media watching as well there. On the right-hand side of our soundbar there, we have front-facing buttons, or what we know as hotkeys, and these are easily accessible buttons for you to access commonly used features like volume, home, and power on and off there for your panel as well. Our IFPs come with two pens included, and they just sit on the pen tray, which rests the top of that soundbar there as well. So it's really easy to grab and access your annotation tools to get up and running with our panels there too. And then finally, in the middle here is an NFC sensor. You can see on that diagram. And that allows us to use NFC cards. You may already be using these at your schools for printing services or for security access. And we're able to utilize those cards to log on with our own personalized profile. And that allows us to personalize settings on the IFP, but also link our cloud storage. So we can access cloud storage drives like Google Drive, OneDrive, or Dropbox directly from the panel itself. And if we have time, I'll cover that briefly at the end of the session as well. One more hardware component I just want to mention is our purpose-built remote control here as well. And so we have a couple of really cool features built into this remote. One of those incorporates the digital pointer you can see at the top of the remote there. And this allows us to both create a spotlight and change the size of that spotlight so we can focus on or highlight certain content on our panels, or we can change that into like a red dot pointer or a laser pointer. And we're able to see that on the screen as well to use that as a wireless presenting tool too. Further down, we can swap apps, and we also have freeze and blank buttons there as well. So we can blank out the screen to grab the students' attentions within the class, or if there's something on the screen that we want to focus on and freeze, we're able to tap that button there as well and utilize that directly on the remote. And the great thing about this remote control is that it allows you to walk around your classroom and still control the panel without being anchored to the front of the classroom or standing right next to the panel to use that during your lessons. I mentioned this earlier about classroom care or healthcare, and there's a couple of key components here. At the bottom of that page, you'll see low blue light, flicker-free, and anti-glare, and these are commonly used technologies, not just in interactive flat panels, but in TVs and monitors now as well. And so we've incorporated that technology, and we're obviously certified for that as well. But the main focus I want to draw on here is just the germ-resistant screen. So this is unique to BenQ, and this incorporates a ionic silver coating. So we coat all our RP panel screens with this coating, and it disrupts cell division of bacteria and germs there, and it has a 99% strike rate. I guess in the current climate that we're dealing with the whole COVID-19 situation, there's been a real core focus on hygiene or health within the classroom or just within society in general. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. We are the only manufacturers that utilize this technology, and it has a really great uh, place in the classroom there. As you know, kids aren't the most hygienic creatures on the earth, and so having technology that combats that or helps out that situation is definitely important there as well. Before I jump into Insta Share, I might just share my panel there so you get a quick overview of what we can do as far as on the panel itself rather than going through a PowerPoint slide here. So just allow me to share my screen really quickly from my panel. If you have any questions along the way, guys, just hang on to them and I'll make sure that we cover those at the end of the session too. So we'll have time for any questions on anything I've covered or anything that I haven't covered. All right, you should be able to see my IFP screen here. So this is a typical setup of when you first turn on your BenQ interactive flat panel. You can see here I've logged in with my profile. So this is actually customized to my own personal settings. And you can see that down the bottom left-hand corner, I have my name with a little profile picture there as well. So I know I've actually logged into the panel itself. Before I dive into our whiteboarding solution, I spoke briefly about being able to access cloud storage, and we can do that just in our file manager here known as AMS files. And so if I click on that, it'll just bring up like a generic, like a Windows Finder window as such. So I can see all my folders here. I have local device storage here for internal. If I had any USB drives plugged in as well, I can plug those directly into the front of the panel and access those files here also. But up the top here, you'll notice that I have linked my cloud storage drives here. And what this allows me to do is actually access those drives, and I can see both my own drive or any shared drives here as well. And I can just dive straight into that and access those folders and those files directly on the panel itself. I'll be able to open any of these files And I can also save directly back to these cloud storage drives as well. So if I want to save my whiteboard in session, I'd be able to save that as like a PDF document and then save it directly back to those drives. And that's a really cool and efficient feature. So you don't have to worry about bringing your own devices or your own storage there and save it directly to the cloud. So not only can you access that again on your own personal devices like your laptop or your tablets, but if you were to hot swap and go to a different classroom, you'd be able to access those files again directly on that panel as well. So it's not restricted locally there. Um, so that's what we call AMS, or our account management system. So I just wanted to touch on that really briefly. But the first app I'm going to jump into here is the EasyWrite app, and that just lives down the bottom of your screen here. You'll see the Easy icon there. And so if I click on that, that'll just launch our digital whiteboard. And straight away, I'm obviously using a mouse here so you can follow along, but I'd be able to pick up a pen, or I'll use my fingers and just start annotating straight away. It probably looks a little fragmented or a little stuttery on the video conference here, but in reality, it's a very smooth and accurate annotation tool there as well. So I can get up and just start using the whiteboard and start annotating or writing on the board there itself. There's a whole bunch of different tool sets that I have here. I can't go through them all today. It's quite dense, and we don't quite have enough time for me to go in depth. But there's one tool set I want to bring to your attention, and those tools just live, funnily enough, in our toolbox here. So I can click on this icon, and it brings up a whole range of different tools. And we have things like calculator and geometry tools, a couple of different timing tools as well. And the one I want to bring to your attention is this one here with the 3 different panels you can see. And this is what's known as Team Post. And so if I select this, it brings up a different app within the whiteboarding app as such. And you can see there I have 3 different panels, and then we can select a different color for each of those panels here down the bottom of our screen. And then we could have 3 students up at our BenQ panel, and they can just start annotating within their own space here as well. And you'll notice I can't actually go across the different panels here at all. So those colors and that annotation is restricted to each of those panels there. Our panels do come with 20 points of touch. Within our whiteboard itself, we can have 10 points of touch at any one time, so simultaneously. So we can have multiple students up at the board to collaborate and work on brainstorming sessions or class lessons and projects as we go along as well. So this is a really cool feature that gets students involved and have their own space on that whiteboard, and they can start annotating depending on what the lesson is. The other really cool feature about this, and obviously I can erase this annotation as well, just per panel here. So I'll go through and do all that as well. So the students will have control over their own individual panel. The other cool feature about this is that on the left-hand side, we have a little page with a question mark box here. And if I click on that, it allows me as an educator, as a teacher, to set a question for the class or for those students I want to come up and start annotating on the board. So I could just write the question or the equation in here. It's obviously very good for maths, or it might be general trivia. And then I can select the paste to all option. And that will paste that same equation to each of those panels. So if I had a maths equation there, I could get students up to show they're working out as they work their way through that equation. You could obviously make this into a timed competition or timed event like that as well. So it's a really cool feature specifically made for that classroom. Another couple of cool features to touch on here is that I can actually save this as its own document. So I could save this as a PDF document, or I could share this via QR code as well. So if students are using tablets, for instance, they'd be able to use a built-in QR code reader and actually save their own work to their own personal device there and take that with them directly from the panel. So that's a really cool feature as well. And then obviously to get out of this and back to my whiteboard, I can just hit the cross here, and it'll always prompt me as to whether I want to save that document or not. I'll hit the don't save feature there for now. Another really cool feature I want to draw your attention to, and that feature was called Team Post, just to recap, and it just lives in our toolbox here. Another really cool feature I want to demonstrate today is what we call Cloud Whiteboard. And you'll notice down in the bottom left-hand corner here, we have a little man with a plus symbol. And if I click on that, it'll bring up another menu there, which is our room menu. And so it gives us a couple of options. We can invite people to this session, so we can invite students or other teachers to our session remotely and get them to help collaborate or annotate there in the session. Or I can actually link 2 BenQ IFPs together, and we can use 2 whiteboards at once to collaborate on the same document. For now, I'm just going to hit the invite button. And this will ask me if I want to save my existing whiteboard. So when we start a new cloud whiteboard session, this will always prompt me to save it. I'm just going to hit don't save for now. But what will happen here is that we'll generate a QR code on our screen. And so once again, any students that are using tablets in the classroom will be able to scan that QR code on their own device and then start brainstorming and start collaborating in the classroom. Obviously, getting students involved is a key priority for teachers to help them to learn and to focus. And so this goes a long way in helping that situation. You'll also notice at the bottom of this QR code, we have an Easy Write website that you can go to as well. So if students aren't using tablets in the classroom, they can use their PCs to access this also just via their browser. So they simply type in the website there, easywrite.benq.com, and then it will prompt them to input their name and their room ID as well. And so once they've done that in their browser, they'll have joined the session and they'll be able to see me start annotating here as well. Now, one thing they can do, they'll be able to see me annotating, but they won't be able to contribute just yet as well. But next to our little man with the plus symbol in this left-hand corner, I have what looks like an octopus icon or a broadcast icon. And so as far as, sorry, I just saw a question pop up there, as far as operating system support. So this is browser-based. And so as long as you have Chrome or Safari installed on your computer, you'll be able to access this. So obviously Safari is built in with your iOS or Apple devices, and Chrome is downloadable on all platforms anyway. So either of those platforms, no worries, Sharon. And you'll be able to access this. Now, when I clicked on this little permission setting, this is our broadcast icon. And what broadcast means is that me as the host or as the educator can annotate and add images and use the whiteboard there. But anyone who's joined this session can only view it currently. If I swap this over to co-creation mode here, this allows anyone who's actually joined that session to start annotating or adding their own images or sticky notes directly to that session as well, which is really handy. I'll bring up this code again by just clicking on this man. If people want to join in, please feel free to scan that QR code you see on your screen now. I'll give you a minute or so to do that, or you can just jump on the website as well. So I'll just leave that up for a little bit longer. All right, so we've got a couple of people in there. People are annotating here. Dan's put a sticky note in, which is great. And so all of our students who have joined this session will be able to collaborate on this because I've swapped it over from broadcast to co-creation there. Which is really handy. I mentioned before this works on Chrome or Safari, and there's no current limit to the amount of participants you can have in this session. So you can have a full classroom of students in on this session as well. And because it just runs on an internet connection and a browser, they can be anywhere in the world and join one of these sessions as long as they have those login credentials there as well. So you may have a student that's absent from class, or they're on sick leave or on extended holidays, and they can still join into these sessions so long as you provide them the details there as well. Like I mentioned before, you can add images or sticky notes here. So it's a really great way to get people involved who can't be in the same physical space as you. And obviously with this situation we're dealing with the pandemic at the moment, a lot of students are displaced from the classroom and they're trying to learn from home. And so this is a great tool for those teachers who are still able to go to the classroom, use their BenQ panels, and then invite those students into that session remotely as well. Now, this is just a visual aid or a graphic aid. It doesn't incorporate any video conferencing or anything like that. So we'd still use this kind of cloud whiteboard feature in conjunction with Zoom or other video conferencing solutions if we wanted to communicate verbally with our students as well. There's no cost associated with this. This is a free service that we offer that's installed natively within that Easy Write program on the BenQ panels. All right. Once I'm done with the cloud whiteboard, I can stop those activities. And for anyone who's joined, they can actually save this whiteboard to their own device as well, just within their browser or on their mobile devices too. I'm also able to save this myself on the panel as well. If I hit stop activities, anyone who's joined will get a little notification letting them know that that interaction has ended now. And once again, I'd be able to save this session on my panel or into my cloud storage as well. And not only I can save this document, not just the cloud whiteboard aspect, but any whiteboard session that I have, I can save that as a file. So I'll just touch on this really briefly as well. So if I hit the save icon there, you can see here I just have one page here, and the way our whiteboard works, it works on a multi-page system. So down the bottom here, I can just keep adding pages, multiple pages, and I have templates here, and I can incorporate those into my lesson as well. Things like handwriting templates, for instance, which are really handy in classrooms. Or if you have your own templates that you'd like to use, you can actually click on this icon, which is a little scroll icon, and add your own from your own computer or device there as well. You can see here, once again, I can import files from my cloud storage, OneDrive, Dropbox, or Google Drive there, or anything that's stored locally or even on USB, and I'll be able to use that as a template. So if I have a map, for instance, and I'm teaching geography, I'd be able to link that and import that file, that map image, and just and anchor it to the background here, and then annotate over the top of that. And like I mentioned, we work on a multi-page system, so I can click here and I can see what pages, I can bounce back and forth between them as well. And I can have up to 15 pages per whiteboarding session. So you always got plenty of space per lesson there. Heading back to our save icon here, to save that, now you can see I have multiple pages. I can check those off as I see fit. And I can save this in two different fashions. I can save it as a PDF document, so it'll save both those pages to one document, or I can save each of those pages as a separate image file as well. So I can just pick and choose which one I want to save. Once I've hit confirmed, it'll just scan my storage locations. So once again, I can save that internally or locally to the built-in memory, or I can save it to my cloud storage drives, or if I have a USB drive connected, it would appear here also. I can just hit the save option and save that file directly to any of those storage locations, which is really handy. And then the last feature I'll touch on with EasyWrite is that we're also able to record our sessions. I can't do it today just because I'm on Zoom and recording via Zoom, but natively you can hit this record button here, the big red circle button, and that'll give you a notification up in the top right-hand corner here, letting you know that you're recording that session. And what that enables us to do is record everything that's happening on that panel. So we can see any annotation that's made within EasyWrite, we can see the background, any images added, and this is recording as an MP4 file. And not only is recording everything we see, but it's also recording our voice via the built-in microphone array I mentioned earlier. So it'll save that as an MP4 file. And because that's a universal file format, you can open that up not only on your BenQ panel later on, but you can open that recording on any device that is able to open an MP4 file. So this is great for you to recap your lessons or to review that lesson structure, but it's also great to pass on to students to catch up on a lesson that they may have missed due to absence or something like that as well. And like I said, they don't have to be in the classroom to review that. You could email that out to them or drop it in a joined drive there in your cloud storage as well for them to access directly from the panel. So it's a really cool feature there for them to review and for your students to catch up on the education they may have missed, which is really handy. As far as length of recording goes, you can record for almost up to an hour at any time. So 59 minutes and 59 seconds, and then the recording will stop, but then you can just hit record again to record as a different file there as well. There's really cool features in this whiteboard as well that I can't go over today. You can add your own pictures and your own documents as well. So just be aware of that. So we can import any image we want and add that to our whiteboarding session or a collaborative cloud session. And then I can also import documents as well. So things like Word, PowerPoint, or PDF documents as well. And for instance, if I was going to import a PDF document that might be 5 pages in length, it would just add each page of that PDF to a separate page of our whiteboarding document. So we'd have one PDF page per whiteboarding document page. So it's really easy to navigate that as well. It would just import that as a static image. And so that means we can't actually edit that file, but we can annotate over the top of it. So it works just like a photo in that sense. That's all I'm going to cover today because I know we're really short on time. We do have videos that we can pass on to you so you can get a full overview of EasyWrite as well. And we'll pass those on to the guys at Toshiba so they can forward those through to you as well. but we might just jump out of that really quickly. And we have these little cool arrows on the side of our board, and they just gives access to a selection of options here or menus. And so I can just hit this option here and bounce straight back to my home page here that I had when I first boot up the panel. The second feature I want to go through is that we've looked at annotating within that whiteboarding session, but how do we annotate or draw or write outside of that? And going back to my side menu here, I can select this icon right down the bottom. You'll see it's another easy icon here. And if I click on that, it brings up my floating toolbar here. And this is a really cool, unique feature of the BenQ as far as the easy write floating toolbar goes. And this gives me a couple of options. I can just start annotating straight away. And I'm just annotating right on top of my home screen here. But if I had another app open, like my browser, for instance, I'd be able to annotate on top of that as well. So if I get rid of that toolbar, just by clicking on the center there, if I open up my browser, I can still bring up this toolbar and annotate directly on top of this website as well once it loads up there. And so I can just start annotating. The reason we call it a floating toolbar is because our annotation layer is actually floating on top of whatever's behind it there. So in this case, it's floating on top of our browser. On the home screen, it's floating on top of that home screen. So what this means is if I scroll down this page on this browser, the annotation won't actually follow it, because it doesn't realize that it's actually annotating on top of that source. But it's cool just to mark different things on a document we may have open as well, or on our browser, or any media that we have showing there as well. So that's ready to go as soon as you launch that floating toolbar. But we have a whole bunch of different icons around here as well. And so I'll just run over briefly what these are. So this icon on the top right corner allows us to jump back into EasyWrite, our whiteboarding solution. I can erase any annotation I have there. I can open my file manager directly from here as well. And then I can screen capture or record directly here as well. So these are the two I want to focus on. With the screen capture, if I press that, you'll notice that I have a framing tool right around the outside edge of my screen there. And I can use these tabs just to pull that in and resize that frame. And this is basically going to take a screenshot of whatever's within that frame. You notice here within that frame, I have a couple of different options along the base of it here too. So I can resize to full screen and resize that frame. I can save this as its own image document, once again, just like I can within EasyWrite, or I can import this directly into EasyWrite. So if I click that button there, it'll take that screenshot and import that directly into my EasyWrite whiteboarding session there. And then this becomes its own image. I've got my selection tool down here, this lasso tool, and I can move that around the screen as well. I can then just use pinching gestures or hand gestures, just like I do on mobile phone and tablet, to resize that image as well, and then annotate over the top of that within my whiteboarding session. So it's really cool to take content from your web browser and from the internet and import that into your whiteboarding session and continue to work and collaborate with your students within that program there as well. The other feature that I mentioned is recording. So I'll just bring this into the center of my screen here. So this works just like it does within EasyWrite when I was mentioning recording before. And so it'll record everything on our screen. It will record that floating toolbar annotation, and it will record my voice as well, or your voice as the host or as the teacher there. And it will save that as an MP4 format as well. One thing to note with this recording feature, this will only work on the Android source. So if you plug in your computer, for instance, and swap over the HDMI, it won't record on that source. So it'll only record on our Android operating system here. But all of these features are accessible on those other sources like HDMI or VGA. So we can still screen capture from those other sources, we can annotate on top of those, and we can use these shortcuts on top of those sources as well. So a really handy toolbar to continue your lessons and annotate and record or screen capture there as well. And once we're done with that, we just click or tap on the middle there, obviously, and that screen, that floating tool will disappear. And then lastly, the last software feature I want to point out to you is an app that we call Insta Share. And this is unique to BenQ. I've obviously got it pinned to my desktop here, but it just lives in with our apps that you can see here. So this is where all our apps live, and we can sideload apps as well. So if there's certain applications, Android applications we want to install, we can try those and test those out to work natively on our panels too. You also notice next to this app selection, we have widgets as well. And you'll notice I've got a couple pinned to my desktop here, like a clock with time and date, and also our CO2 sensor. And we have a CO2 sensor built into our panels, which monitor air quality within the classroom as well. And I know schools within New South Wales specifically have started incorporating and purchasing independent CO2 sensors for their classroom. And there's been studies that link that to overall focus and effectiveness of learning and education within the classroom. So the lower this CO2 sensor is, the more focus your students will maintain when trying to learn within the classroom. And so those widgets just live within here. But going back to what I was talking about before, let's have a look at Insta Share, which is just this purple icon here. And this is BenQ's own wireless mirroring or wireless casting solution. And once again, this is built into your panel straight out of the box, and you're able to cast from your own personalized devices straight to our IFPs. And not only can we cast one device, we can cast up to 4 devices simultaneously. So you'll see here I have 2 different modes, so I can go into split screen and have 4 devices showing, or I can just have a presentation mode or a full screen mode with 1 device here as well. So a couple of prerequisites for being able to stream or cast to your IFPs. Your devices need to be on the same network, and they need to have the Insta Share app installed on that device as well. You'll notice on this main screen, we have a little connection guide tab down the base here. If I click on that, once again, we love our QR codes at BenQ. We're able to scan that QR code with our mobile device or tablet for iOS or for our Android devices. And that'll take us to a download link within those stores. So within Google Play or within the iOS Apple Store, and we can download that application specific for the platform we're using. If we're on our laptops, so either Mac OS or Windows or Chrome, for instance, we're able to type in this IP address listed here where my cursor is, type that into your browser, and that will take you to a download page. And then you'll just be able to select your specific operating system and download Insta Share for that device. So really easy to get your hands on that app there. Once we have the app and we're connected to the same network as our panel here, so you'll notice we have the SSID at the top here. So anyone who's joined to this Wi-Fi network or this network in general will be able to access this feature. And so what I might do is just cast a couple of devices here directly to that panel now, just so you can see what I'm talking about. And it makes it really easy to jump in and access that feature. So let me just make sure I'm connected to the network here. So I'm going to join with an iPad and an iPhone, and Dan's actually going to jump in with his laptop as well. So Dan, if you want to jump in and start casting there as well, we'll get this sorted. Beautiful. So you can see down the bottom, it gives me an allow or deny, so no one can hijack the board. The teacher will always have control over that. And that's Dan's desktop there. I'm just going to connect with these other devices now. Jump into this one. You'll see down the bottom, my iPad's requesting as well. And so what I'm going to do here, Dan, I'll get you to, actually, I've got you here still. So I'm just going to click on you. So you can see there we have a couple of different devices joined there at the moment. And so the great thing about this, I can have up to 4 screens if I wanted to as well, and I can just minimize this menu here also. So we could have a couple of different devices. I might just connect my phone so you guys can see that as well. That's all right. So we'll have 3 different devices there. And so we can view these, and you can see that operating in real time there as well. So even though we're on sort of 3 different screens at the moment, I can actually enlarge these screens as well just by clicking this middle button and going to full screen. So this is great to have multiple students join there. I think my phone's just died. Let me just stop mirroring. And what this allows us to do is just pick and choose what screens we want to go to full screen here as well. The great thing about the Windows devices that we connect is that we actually have a touchback feature with that as well. So what that means though, even though Dan is wirelessly casting his PC here, I can control that PC now from the panel itself. So let me just click on here. It's connected. Beautiful. And then so I can just use touch features on this board as well, and open up these and maximize that and use this directly from the panel itself. So I can have my laptop to the side, and then we can go in and just utilize the panel and access that desktop and everything associated with that as well. So that's a really cool feature. And then I can just minimize that screen again and go back to my iPad as such as well. And then I could use my iPad and circle through and cast videos or images or documents or any of that kind of thing too. So this is what's known as Insta Share. Like I mentioned, we can do 4 devices casting simultaneously here as well. And if we just want to go to one of those devices, I can always just click the cross here and then go to full screen as well on this device also. So 4 devices cast into the board, but we also have what we call two-way mirroring. So not only can we cast from the panel, from the device to our panel, we can cast from the panel back to our own device. So if we're in a larger classroom or there's vision impaired people within our classroom and they're having trouble viewing that board, we can actually cast from that panel back to our own device so they can see that what's going on that board on their own personalized device. And that can support up to 16 devices connected. So we can mirror from the panel to 16 independent devices there, which is really handy for the classroom as well. So this is what's known as Insta Share. Really easy to get up and running with that straight away. So yeah, really handy scenario there for that. When you use the app on there, I might actually just share my screen again and open up the app itself. So just bear with me, guys, just so I can show you how to do that really quickly. So I might just stop sharing from this screen. It's all right. I'll open the app here and we'll just start sharing that well. So let me just share this for you guys. Sorry, it won't be a tick. So you guys can see that app. So I've just opened that up on my Windows laptop and we have a couple of options here. So we can start casting here, which will just cast from my device to the panel, or I can screen mirror. And that just means I'm mirroring from the Ifp screen. So that two-way mirroring back to my own device there as well. For Windows devices, we can actually do extended display as well. So we can utilize the panel as a second monitor as such, which is quite handy as well. So that way, when you're teaching, you can have different content on your laptop compared to what you're showing on the actual Ifp screen itself. But that's Insta Share. Pretty easy to get up and running with that, guys. And that's a free feature as well, which is ready to go straight out of the box. Now we've got about 7 or so minutes left. I'll just go back to my PowerPoint really quickly and recap sort of what we're seeing today. So just bear with me and I'll get this sorted for you. All right. And we'll share this. All right. So we had a look at Insta Share. Once again, 4 split screen, two-way mirroring, two-way touch control with Windows devices, and it's cross-platform. So we can use iOS devices, Android devices, Mac OS, Chrome, and also Windows devices, obviously there as well. A couple of things I'm just going to mention really quickly. We have a lot of back-end management systems for our IT admins as well in the classroom. So Xline Broadcast is one of those features where we can set up real-time messaging or broadcasting of messages, or we can send those instantly to all our panels or a group of panels, which is handy for classroom announcements and that kind of thing, school announcements, presentations, group messaging as well. And obviously for live streaming, this is a feature that we're working on currently that we'll launch soon enough. And so we'll be able to do that in real time as well. AMS, I mentioned this at the start, so I won't dwell on this, but this is the ability to personalize our desktop for our Ifp per teacher and allow them to have access to those cloud storage options as well. And they can log into that panel with their Nfc cards or by typing in their credentials or via QR code reader as well. And then lastly, our device management system or solution. And this allows us to do a couple of really cool things. We can manage our display settings remotely from our web browser. We can install apps remotely via the web browser. And we can manage firmware and those devices all through a web browser so that your IT admins don't need to be in front of the panel to do this. They can be anywhere because it's all cloud-based technology. So here's a recap of some of the stuff we went over today, guys. So as far as design principles go, our unique design with our custom-made soundbar and our microphone array. We spoke about AMS and our NFC tags and being able to log in with our profiles. We have our pen tray there with our annotation tools, so they're really easy to grab and start working on our panels straight away. And we have that remote control as well that has really cool features like spotlight and laser pointer, and also freeze and blank screens. And then we spoke about classroom care with anti-glare, low blue light, and flicker-free, obviously. And germ-resistant screen is the big thing. It's unique to BenQ, and now more so than ever, it's really important in that classroom scenario. And then we had a look at our whiteboarding software with our EasyWrite 5.0, and that incorporated that team post function, which allows multiple students up at the board, and they can work in their own space there on the panel there. And we can also save that or share that as well via QR code. We had a look at our floating toolbar, which allows us to annotate and screenshot outside of that whiteboarding solution as well, both on our Android platform and on our different sources. And we can record as well just on the Android source using that floating tool as well. And then we spoke about our wireless or furthermore our collaboration with that cloud whiteboard feature and with Insta Share and being able to cast our devices directly to that as well. And then briefly, I just mentioned our backend systems there with our device management with DMS and Xsign broadcast there also. And then I'll just leave you with sort of 10 really key features with our BenQ panels that are great for the classroom scenario. And so we have this in the top left-hand corner, we have our built-in EasyWrite 5.0 whiteboarding app with that cloud-based collaboration tool as well, which is great for classroom and especially with the situation we're dealing with learning from home or distance education, which goes a long way to solving that problem there that we have. And then we have the floating toolbar and obviously the Insta Share app. The three big ones for us as far as classroom care technologies go, we have that air quality sensor, that germ-resistant screen, and our smart eye care with anti-glare, low blue light, and flicker-free. And then just our back-end management systems here, being able to create our own profiles and access our cloud storage, being able to send messages over the air to our panels, and then also managing those from an IT perspective as well. And we utilize fine infrared technology. I didn't touch on this earlier, but it's basically the technology that's built into our panels to give us that really fluid annotation experience there. It's a little hard to pick up, obviously via video conferencing, but it is really fluid and very accurate as well. And so that technology allows us to have a great writing experience, both for teacher and students alike. And guys, that brings me to the end of this session today. We have a little bit of time now just for any questions you may have. I don't know if anyone's typed any in the chat there. Nothing yet. But if you have any questions, guys, please feel free to sing out now, and we'll cover those off now. So I'll just give you guys a couple of minutes there.
Toshiba guys can jump into that one.
Yeah, so I'll get the Toshiba guys to contact you maybe outside of this webinar today, and they'll be able to help you out in regards to pricing there as well. Yes, thank you, Sanjay. Yeah, just speak to Team Toshiba there, and they'll be able to help you out with that pricing structure as well. Is there any questions there, guys, regarding anything we covered today, or any other sort of use case scenarios? If you're wondering how you can utilize those on the panels themselves, I'm more than happy to cover those off now. What schools are good references for the panels? We have a couple of case studies on our website. There. We might be able to link those in the chat there for you. Yeah, Dan's going to link those in the chat there for you now. So a couple of schools that we've done case studies on are Ipswich Grammar School in Queensland, and also Coomera Anglican College, also in Queensland there, which are really great schools and great advocates for the BenQ brand as well. We're always looking to expand our case study portfolio there as well. And so we're currently looking into doing further case studies from an education perspective at other schools, both in Victoria and New South Wales. So watch the space for those kind of references or case studies there as well. But if you have something locally, yeah, Burac will be able to help you out there, Rob, as well, if you want to speak to someone specifically from a Victorian school there as well.
Give me a sec.
So let's just link in a couple of those video case studies we've done now, just in the chat there. Is there any other questions there, guys? Thanks, Leonardo. Appreciate it. And yes, if you do have questions outside the webinar, please get in touch with Team Toshiba there. And obviously from BenQ, we're more than happy to help you out as well. All right, Dan will just link that second case study there, which is great. And he's going to link one more. But if that's it today, I'll take the silence as a good indicator. Hopefully it gives you a good understanding of the BenQ panels and what we can offer as a solution. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of technology there. There's a lot of things I couldn't cover in the 45 minutes. So if you'd like more information, please reach out to your Toshiba team there to help you out with that as well. But thanks a lot for joining. Really appreciate your time and look forward to working with you guys in the future.